All right, well, we're going to try this out again. Let's see here. So Max couldn't join us today, but we figured we'd at least do a little something to kind of keep this thing rolling. So Chad and I are just going to chat a little bit and go from there and have another conversation put up. So
that's kind of our day-to-day anyway. We always seem to collaborate
on
a regular about things that come up in the gym. So this would be a cool opportunity for us to go ahead and honestly post about some of the things that we get to discuss in person that might actually be helpful for some of the people watching this and some of our members to hear maybe some of the answers to some of these questions that we seem to come across on a regular.
Yeah, I mean, keep it the podcast that's not a podcast, right?
Totally.
Keep the thing on. So yeah, how you been, buddy?
Good, man. Good. It's Friday. Everyone seems to be killing it. You know, gym is going well.
Everyone's doing really good, man.
Yeah, we're in a groove right now.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people have I don't know if it's like due to the pandemic or whatever, but really kind of kicked it into high gear, and we've really been paying attention to kind of the other 23 hours in the day.
Yeah.
It's not just the hour in here, but we say it all the time. It's like you've got all this other stuff you got to take care of outside of the gym. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is like meditation for a lot of people. I know for me, it's one of those things that's like, this is the easiest part, right? Like,
Absolutely.
working out, that's the fun stuff. So.
Yeah. It's like I went to Hendersonville on Wednesday to work out with, Strong Hand Fitness.
You're up in Hendersonville, go check out Ian and his gym.
Absolutely. Super nice, very charismatic, very welcoming. He's got a badass gym. So very cool spot in Hendersonville. So yeah, if you're in the area, for sure, go check him out. But we were just kind of talking about training and helping people, and he brings up, I mean, the guy's got like 881 squat. So just insane.
That's insane.
But we were talking about how much he loves his training because it is his meditation. You know, when he is under that much weight or anything that he squats is astonishing. It's the only thing you can think about is the training that is going on at that moment. And if it isn't,
isn't that really cool?
You know, like, he brought up a very cool point, which is like if I go to get under the bar and I am not concentrated on the squat, I need to get away from the bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I need to take that.
Particularly that way.
Yeah. It becomes more of a safety concern at that point.
What's your best squat?
540 I hit earlier this year.
I've had 500 on my back before, but I can't even, like, the difference between 4 and 5 was mind-boggling to me. Like the amount of just like, and then like the amount of bone-crushing force to think of 800 pounds on your back. That's incredible.
He says, I think someone asked him a question. What was it like to squat? Eddie Cohn got up to what, 1,000? Some absurd number.
Maybe in a suit.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah, but he was like, well, what's your max? And I think the person said like 500 or something like that. He was like, well, that's kind of how it felt like for him. Now, I think to a degree that may be true.
Oh, so you're saying like it gets to be the same no matter how.
That's how I think he phrased it or answered the question. But I think you're right though. I think there's a degree of like, I remember hitting 400 for the first time and then hitting 500 for the first time.
Yeah.
And I would say that sensation, that stimulus was different, So
Eddie's best was 965.
965. Okay. Insane.
At 220.
That's insane.
220 pounds.
That's insane. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But yeah, I have to imagine he because the guy trained for so long, he was always under the bar. There was a level of like, he just kind of got used to it. I mean, he was in the 900s for so long. It's just like, I mean, that kind of felt like what it felt like for us at 500. However, but it's like your body had so much time and workouts to get there. You probably got to the point where you couldn't even remember what it was like to hit 500. That would be my guess.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Just the time you spend, and I think we say it a lot, is like the amount of time that it takes to get to your goal is going to be, for everybody a little bit different, but to get to 600 plus pounds squatting is going to take a lot of time. And I guess at some point the body adapts and gets used to it. Adaptation is going to happen. But either way, so Strong Hand was fun?
Yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, I got to just hang out with Ian for the most part, play with some of his toys, so it was very cool. Had a good day, did a little bit of training, trying to get back to it, stay consistent, but it is cool that, that we're in this business and we get to meet other individuals with similar goals, like providing a space where, I mean, I probably saw him have a couple of powerlifters come through, one or two strongmen, a bodybuilder for sure. I mean, that dude was aesthetic as hell. If he's not bodybuilding, he should be. Yeah, so it's just cool to see another environment similar to our own.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just like a wheelhouse of people with all just goal driven, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that we have this space because we get to meet people like Ian and work with them. And he gave me a couple of tips on squatting. I was all ears.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
81. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Tell me.
Yes, sir. Tell me. I'm not worthy.
Yeah. So it was very cool, man.
Well, that's like, we might have talked about this in one of the other podcasts, but it's, you know, when we have a potential member walking in and I'm taking them through, I'm always trying to like tell them like, hey, you know, you've got me, you've got Chad, you've got Joe, you've got Brian, you've got all these heads working towards the same, to get you to do this, like the same goal, right? If you have a goal, we're all trying to work to get you to that. But like if I tell you one thing that just is all, if I give you a cue that has helped my training, it might not click for you. It might have clicked for me, but it might be like for you, it's like, what the hell is that? But then you come in and you see Joe or you, and you're like, oh, squeeze your pinkies, and that might just be the thing. Yeah. So it's like you don't want to like lock into one line of advice or person or idea. You want to try and find all of them so you can learn from and just add the things that are the tools to your training. Just keep piling them into that toolbox so you can just reach in there and pull them out when you need them. Yeah. And it makes you a diverse and better lifter, I think.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. I mean, think of any professional athlete, or I mean, even if we look at like students, you have 100 different professors over your lifetime, you know, and so each person is going to have a different level of experience and information, and obviously their specialties. Hey, this teacher is my chemistry teacher. Obviously, I'm going to learn chemistry from this individual. However, I mean, I had 6 or 7 different chemistry teachers, you know, and I probably learned something different from each of them. So coaching can be the same way, and as much as I love all of our members because they do, I think, in some ways, not latch onto us so much as they really trust us and all that stuff. It's like I definitely encourage them, like, come to Logan's here, work with Logan. You're gonna learn something that I can't teach you. Either I'm not phrasing it in a way that's just sinking in, or he's just gonna say something maybe even completely different. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things. I think they get comfortable. And it's like if they meet one of us for the first time, then it's like, oh, I get this. I understand. I'm comfortable going and doing that. But at any moment in time, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone, and it applies to the lift, right? Like, I don't think Ian at some point said, you know what, I'm not going to hit the 700-pound squat, so I'll just stay under 7. Yeah, it's like, no, I'm going to keep doing more until I get to that 800-pound squat, and I'm wish you the best of luck on the road to 9, I'm sure. 1,000 pounds.
I think he picked a competition for later this year, so you know, I'm sure 9's in the back of his head somewhere. But he's a very methodical lifter. He's not an egotist. Talking to him, and you can just tell the guy he's patient. He's understanding. He's what I think many powerlifters need to work around similar coaches like him. That like Ian's been there. He's hit huge numbers. But he understands that it took time, it took effort, and in no way did he ever want to put himself at a risk that he wouldn't be able to continue to train later on. You know, he talked about some of his attempt selections. He said he even thought about going for a higher number on his deadlifts, a higher number on his squat, but he wanted to sneak it. He wanted to go in and have just a great meet and a detailed plan. But, you know, as athletes, we get so obsessed with benchmarks.
The numbers, man.
You know, like I can imagine being, going 880, 81, and then walking away. I'm sure tons of guys have been like, 19 more pounds, bro. You only need 19 pounds to hit that. Yeah, why did you do it, bro? It's like, but he may have had a completely different day if he would have done that.
Yeah.
He may have missed it. He may have bombed out of his bench and his deadlift because he taxed himself. But I think he went either 8 for 9 or 9 for 9 the day. But it just shows how mature and methodical he can be as a coach. And so it was nice to talk to someone like that. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's nice to go to other gyms that have a similar kind of setup. You know, he's I think it's just him right now. Whereas I'm thankful here because I have multiple people. I have Joe. Yeah, it's so nice to have multiple people to work together to rely on. You know, when we started, it was just me and you busting our butts 24/7. And it's like, at some point it's like that may have been the thing that was holding us back.
Oh,
Just a
absolutely,
little bit.
absolutely, yeah. Well, as we grew, it became one of those things like, you know, we said it a couple times, I think, before people started kind of coming in and working with us. We say like if we could free up some of our time here, we could direct it to this thing, which will ultimately help the gym. So it helped the kind of the business grow and get more people in here. So
people. That sometimes I'm with owning your own business, you get down this tunnel vision of it's me against everybody else. Like I focus on myself and what I'm doing. And just to extent is true. Be careful of like I'm notorious for comparing myself or our business to other businesses. It's like, but we got to do our thing. We got to do our thing. We can take note and take notice of like, hey, they were successful because they did this. But we always have to go back to like, who are we? Where are our roots? Like, what makes us great? How do we improve on that?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, you know, be genuine. Yeah. It's not like, you know, don't copy someone for the sake of copying, but again, you learn from everybody. You just kind of pull out the best of it all and then make it your own. So, what do we got, man?
Yeah, I did have a couple of questions just to, we got some material. So one question I had was, so, you know, you've been coaching people for a long time now. So, of course, this is always a scenario that's going to come up eventually. When do you think it is a good time to take a step back from training? And it doesn't have to necessarily be just a break entirely, because I think occasionally that's not a bad idea. But I guess like a deload, yada yada. Like what kind of road signs? What things are you looking for that you usually like a red flag that's like, oh, okay, maybe this person needs to step back a little bit. Like, what kind of things are you always kind of looking out for?
It's a little complicated. I think, I think like if I'm working with if you're like one of our coach members in here, we have the luxury of kind of staying in tune on the day to day. So if, like things start coming up, like all my lifts are really hard to accomplish. I'm fatigued all the time. If I start hearing that even before like the numbers were reflected in the training, even then I'll say, well, maybe let's change up some variation, or you know, take a week, whether you want to consider it a deload or not. Take a week to make sure we're focusing on recovery. I always like to follow that up with, well, how are you sleeping and how are you eating? Because it might be one of those things that we just had a rough life week and we're not sleeping as good. So sleeping is good. Sleeping as well. Anyone? Yeah. So make sure we're kind of hitting those other check marks in like life. And then I'd say I wouldn't. It's like me. I'm just trying to figure out if we're unable to recover, then we've probably just taken on too much intensity for too long, and we need to step away. I'd say like in a general statement, if you know, you're not coached and it's like, man, I've really been struggling and I'm pushing myself harder and harder. It's like, well, I think. And this was probably done a while ago. I believe it was Greg Knuckles that did the study that it was about 2 weeks per year you want to take off, just to give yourself complete recovery.
So like a week of literally almost.
Yeah, I believe it was. I have to go back and look, but I believe it was 2 weeks off or 14 days off of the iron completely, and that was yearly. So I think I have in my mind like every 4 weeks. So that fourth or fifth week, I want to start asking the questions. If I haven't heard anything, like, hey, how are you feeling? Are the numbers going up? Or rather, not so much the numbers as the weight, but the overall volume of the exercise. Are we still able to kind of just increase that? And if all that stuff's not going up, then I'll look to a deload of some capacity.
Yeah, smart. I like it.
What do you think? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, my answer for that question would be very much the same. I mean, you know, I think sometimes I'm trying to watch for technical breakdowns. You know, especially if it becomes very frequent. You know, if I have an athlete who's probably experienced, right? So first and foremost, obviously, if you have someone who's very, very new, technique is going to break down almost every other way, unfortunately. But it's part of the process. They're still in that
skill
cognitive stage. So past several months of training where they start to show real skill, they understand certain positions that should almost be, second nature, or hopefully be starting to become second picture. If I have an athlete like that I've been working with for a while, and I see that they're consistently having these misgrouped reps or stalling out, or if I read a certain percent rep scheme and they're not meeting it, it's like, well, am I shooting too high, or are they not recovering well enough? And like you said, that's a great question that maybe coaches need to be asking more is, are you sleeping? Are you eating well?
Yeah.
Are there any other factors outside of this place that could be affecting your health? And a lot of times people will be like, oh yeah, I did just sell my home, buy a new home, got engaged, started a new job, the dog ran away, blah, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, no wonder squats felt heavy. But sometimes it takes just like asking them just the right question, and you can find all of the reasons right there. It's not so much, you're bad at this for some reason. No, you're fine. It's just life happens.
Take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Working out's important. Keeps your health good too.
Totally.
But it's funny, man. I remember I guess it's been a few years now. How many years back, like the idea of a deload wasn't even a concept. It was like, and now it's like I get, I've been working out for 2 weeks. I just started. Yeah. I think I need a deload. It's like, I don't know, man. It's supposed to be tough. Like it's supposed to be hard. But it's, there's multiple factors. It's like hitting walls.
Sure. What training model they're following? Like for my powerlifters, I feel like they're gonna need a deload pretty frequent because they're going with those like pretty intense training sessions. They have these big compound lifts. They're gonna be deadlifting at least once a week, plus squatting 2 times a week, maybe bench pressing anywhere between 2 and 4 times, depending on the person. So it's like, all right, these guys got frequency like crazy, intensity's up there because we're trying to get stronger. So chance of them need a deload pretty high. But then if you get an athlete that's like, all right, this athlete does predominantly push-ups, sit-ups, they like the calisthenics, they just like the conditioning, they're probably fine to keep going. Maybe 8 weeks before deload.
I ran a 16-week bodybuilding program.
Oh,
I don't think it was Jeff Nippers. Yeah. And I don't think at the 8-week mark you change up to heavier load. So even then, it's like you've been doing this kind of like bodybuilding stuff 6 days per week, relatively high intensity, high volume, so high rep or higher repetition, higher sets. And then at the 8th week, you change it, you bring down the sets, but you bring the load up. So it's more like a strength block on the second half. Yeah. And it's like you don't have it. I guess you kind of do. A little bit of a deload right in the set, like right when you switch to that second one, the second half. The less amount of sets and repetitions kind of makes it, I guess, so the intensity goes up, so it's almost like you cruise through. But I think that's kind of the idea to keep training going is you can manipulate so many different factors. It's like you don't have to think of it as a deload as overall reduction in volume, but I think that's kind of just like the go-to as far as let yourself recover. So I don't know how many times I've said it. It's just trying to remember you don't get big and strong in the gym. You get big and strong recovering from the gym. And here you're doing all the things that tear it down. So you want to make sure that you give yourself the right time. And that's a little bit different for everybody. I've seen a lot of people make huge gains off of like the Texas method where it's like a 5x5 and then you're out for the day. Yeah. You do that 3 times per week. So like super light or super low on the volume, but much higher on the intensity. And then, again, like I've seen huge results on 6 days per week where you're hitting every muscle group 2 times per week and it's super isolated and you just pumping away on it. So I think it always comes back to just finding what's right for you. Which is funny, man. And like you were mentioning like all these different ideas and things. And it's like anytime you're faced with like Chad and I do it all the freaking time, man. It's like if we'll take a stance on one way or the other, just take the time to argue, and then we're like, oh, the answer's in the center. Got it. I should have remembered. It's like, no, I believe this is what it is. It's like
more times than not, it's somewhere in the middle. There's no blanket like this, that, yes, no. I was talking to Brian earlier. We were kind of we got along that same exact thing because we were talking about knee health. So Brian has helped me so much with my knee. I can't be more thankful because I was really getting frustrated and discouraged there.
Brian, by the way, set this up.
Yeah.
My own move. Look at that way.
His office, obviously right here. We're using it, Brian.
We're using it for our podcast.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll keep it clean.
Physical therapist, if you need, reach out to him at My Own Move on Instagram, or come up to TriFit Barbell and get yourself a consultation with him. Yeah. But anyway, help me with your knee.
Yeah, I mean, he brought me back. It was nice to have somebody that is so into performance and health, and he's got a background in just about every sport. And obviously, being a PT, he's academically very educated, and he's passionate. I love he's passionate. So I could really tell that he was caring about helping me improve it. So going through all that and getting back to like a healthy place, and being patient, understanding, and is definitely been one of the tougher things for me. Like you said, is like don't want to accept the deal, don't want to backtrack, but I need to address issues, and Brian's been so helpful to do that. But I lost my train of thought.
Like taking two ends of a spectrum of
Yeah.
So
him and I were just talking about my knee and getting back to it. And so he brought up this some IG influencer, and this guy, I mean, some of the exercise that he has as athletes. Now he works with predominantly basketball players, from what I can gather. But he has them doing so much knee-specific exercise. Like one example was he'll have his athletes do basically like just a 15-degree bend in the knees for loaded squats, right? Bends 15 degrees, so basically just unlocking them, and then goes and does this violent hyperextension of the knee. He does this for reps. He talks about how beneficial it is for that end range and jumping, and how, I mean, I'm sure his programming has full range motion. He'll explain probably why you do these lockouts and when to do it. But I was almost like blown away. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I would do that to my knees. But I'm a powerlifter. It's like, if it's not a full range motion squat, it's going to be foreign to me.
That's true.
For the most part. But yeah, we were talking about this spectrum, and it's like, and so me thinking knee training should be one direction, and then here's an example of a guy who's like, no, I mean, it could be this way too. It's like it kind of shatters this. Like as soon as you think you got it, clean, crisp, I got an understanding of how squatting should be. Here's some dude that's like, nope, it could also be like this. Just crushes it. So I mean, but it's cool. It's it keeps us growing. It keeps us like searching for more answers, more information. At least it should. And trying to avoid as much blanket statements, as much cookie cutter. Here's how it should be done, perfect for everybody. That doesn't exist. There's no perfect program for everybody. There's no perfect program for any individual either. No matter how good you and I have gotten at programming, there's still going to be little nuances that are unforeseen that we have to try to think on the fly.
Yeah, maybe that's the perfection of it all, is your ability to adapt, change, keep an open mind about training, stay learning. Like if you can just do that, then you're golden. And again, it's always the answer is consistency and adherence. If you're just consistent and you keep doing it, you're gonna see results. It's not like, I guess, I wonder, I mean, I'm sure there are like workouts and exercises that are dangerous to you. I'm just kidding. No, but I don't think there's any workout that's like, I think there has, so that's like really hurt somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you're gonna see probably some benefit from everything. Yeah. Can you do it long term and forever? Well, no, but should you do the same exact thing forever? No. You have to increase something over the long term, or take away something over the long term. You're probably going to need some sort of variation to help with imbalance or bring up weaknesses or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like
you got to be able to customize kind of on the fly. It's just like
but like maybe on like a bigger scale, it's like I need that customization maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year. And otherwise it's like stick to the block, stick to the plan, and just kind of hammer away. I think a lot of people just get caught up in the indecision, and something like just pull the trigger on it, go do it, get yourself going at least, and then go from there. And keep that open mind. Remember that the answer is not going to lie on some in the extreme. It's probably going to be relatively the same. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, extremes rarely ever have a positive outlook. It's like if you're going to you're going to go in one extreme direction, you're probably going to have at least some sort of extreme repercussions and results, and they may not always be good. It's like when we see these people do rapid weight loss.
Mm.
Most information coming out about these people that do these rapid weight loss nutrition plans, diet pills, whatever method they went with, can gain all the way back plus some.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of it has to come down to the extreme methods that they took to lose that weight. They never took the time to develop these systems, this appropriate, not connection with your food, but understanding what food is and how it's not harmful. And there is no good and bad food. It's just food. It's moderation. Mm-hmm. Everything is fine. But I know a lot of people have eating disorders, or they use food as a coping mechanism. Right? And that, again, it just creates extremes. I don't know how many ladies I've met that have done shows, bikini shows, figure shows, and they've had terrible follow-up training, nutrition responses to getting so lean so abruptly. And for some of these coaches, like, I'm not trying to pick on anyone specifically, but some of these coaches that prescribe 3-hour cardio sessions, calories lower than 1,000, all of these different extremes, like, man, you are, the fact that you are willing to put people in those situations and have no remorse for how it affects them long term makes me frustrated, right?
Yeah.
I think it's why you and I have stayed away from the bodybuilding a little too much, is because it can create almost mental disorders. You get obsessed with the scale, you get obsessed with a certain look, you stop appreciating gaining muscle or eating well, all of these different things. But people get to the point where it's just like they almost resent the idea of having to cut back even on eating. But like most people, when they work out, they also want to look good. So how do you find that sweet
That's why we're
spot?
all doing this. Right?
Yeah. So.
Well, I think it is funny, man. Like, looking good is, I think anybody would argue, it's like more about confidence than it is like looking in the mirror.
Sure, yeah.
Be confident in your own skin, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all. I think looking good is a reflection of, like, physically fit is a reflection of your overall health, and I think a lot of outside factors, magazines, movie stars, all this thing. The extreme is somehow what the normal should be, And my God, man, we talked about this. This has actually been a topic kind of in the gym recently, and like some of the guys has been like, it's funny. I was watching Zac Efron and talking about getting just shredded.
Sure.
And they'll ask him like, "Would you ever want to do that again?" And the answer is always no. That was
really
awful.
Nice. Okay.
I mean, like, dude, like all, and there was like, I mean, Christian Bale was talking about from machinist up to Batman. He was super anorexic. He's like, I'm killing myself. I'll never do those transformations again.
Sure.
And there was somebody else.
I mean, that's
kind of like
Chris Pratt
or
Chris Pratt's had some pretty wicked transformations. I mean, but I think he went from just like an unhealthy dad to straight up like just stud.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think he's happy where he is now, just because he doesn't look like he fell out of a couch somewhere.
Like maintaining that, unless you want to be a professional bodybuilder, which more power to you. Go do that.
Yeah.
Unless you want that, it's like you are just having to worry about water intake, so you're dry, and your muscles are showing, and you get zero carbohydrate, and you're eating hourly just to make sure you're hitting your macros for the day. And it's like okay, I mean, I could do that for a few months, maybe step on stage and then never do it again. Like live that lifestyle, or just to achieve that, you have to live a lifestyle of strict adherence. It's hard, man. It's hard. Like,
it's a very, very specific individual.
Yeah, and then I find it funny. Like, you look at like some of the people that I consider like the most physically fit on the planet. Like, if you look at Olympians, particularly for me, I look at like boxers and UFC fighters that have to go like at the highest intensity for 25 minutes straight. If it's a championship battle, they're not like super shredded.
No.
They're fit, but
there's a few guys in there that are just like, but they've probably always been.
Well, they're probably like the featherweights where it's like 130 pounds of whatever you can get on you.
Yeah. But no, man, like George St. Pierre, he was always pretty tight, but he was also what he was
under 180,
light heavyweight, I think.
No. He was either middle. I think he went middle and lightweight.
Oh, okay. So he's still pretty tight guy.
He's shorter.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
definitely looked great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But sit him next to a Phil Heath,
Yeah.
and it's like,
yeah.
that's
completely
nothing.
different.
That's
Yeah.
nothing. That's
Absolutely. Yeah. The goals shift, and I mean, professional fighters, they'll put themselves through hell too to make these weight classes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
We used to have a boxer in here, Brian Bora. So if you see this,
Right?
Yeah. He would talk about cutting weight, man, and it's pretty intense. You know, it takes a lot of work. You do a lot of training, and yeah, I again, you have to be into that lifestyle. You gotta love it. I think experience is good, right? So if there's anybody out there considering jumping around in different competition standards, do it, but maybe go in with the mindset of like, hey, I'm gonna have really a lot of fun with this, because there can be negative repercussions that follow. And that's, I think, what I was trying to kind of refer to in the beginning. Is just mostly the ladies, and I apologize for picking on you girls, but you already hold yourselves with such high standards, right? Tend to struggle sometimes with self-esteem, and if you do gain weight, it does weigh on your emotions, your mental health, all this and that. So when ladies go and do these bikini competitions, which the idea is to get pretty much as small and as tight as possible, then they gain only maybe 5 or 10 pounds. They're like, oh, I'm fat. It's like, no, you're not. You're probably in a healthy place now. When you're on that stage, you look like you were going to die. You look sickly, you know? So enjoying the ride. Yeah. I don't want to pick on respect this.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Speaking of fire, health, like, besides a couple of members and I have been talking about sumo wrestlers. And dude, we looked like the amount of like just mass and force being thrown into each other. But there's this one dude who's like, I forget the weight. I don't want to. He's like 300 pounds as compared to like these mid 400. Yeah, the small guy. He's kicking butt out there.
I think I've seen videos of this guy because even his stature is relatively
like he's small,
short,
low to the ground, powerful.
But he uses his leverage and stuff like that. Almost like almost jujitsu style, like those type of martial arts where it's like they don't focus so much on like overpowering their opponent as using their opponent against them. Leverage. Yeah.
But so we were looking into it because we were like, man, these guys can't live long.
Sure.
You know, all this stuff. Like they've got to have metabolic problems, like because they're overweight. Standard. Quite the opposite.
Really?
We looked this up. It's crazy. So one, they're spending like I forget the regimen of your general sumo athlete, but it's like a total of 6 hours in the gym every day, and then having to eat the amount of calories required to do that. So they're training super hard. They're eating all the time. And I think I might have to look it up again, but it was they have higher levels of like interstitial fat, which is in the muscle, and lower levels of organ fat. So like the unhealthy stuff is what builds up around the heart and weighs down the organs.
Right.
Unhealthy stuff. I'm not a doctor, but their life expectancies weren't quite as short as I would have thought. And I was like, dude, so that's nuts. Yeah, you really think of it. Well, it's like people think of that reflection of like, oh, he looks good, so he must be healthy, and it's like.
I realized that wasn't true, and there was no truth to that when I was in college. My college roommate, who I still love so much, just because he's such a good guy, so much fun, so much energy. Like probably one of the first people is just like, you have ADHD, and it's so apparent. So his metabolism just kicked so hard. Dude was shredded, cut, muscular, vascular, barely worked out. He was really active in high school. We used to work out too. Yeah. But I remember one morning for breakfast, I walk into the kitchen, right, and he's cooking an entire pack of bacon, regular bacon, and he threw in 2 full sticks of butter to finish it, then proceeded to eat it out of the pan in the living room as we watched cartoons and stuff like that. I was blown away. I was just like, dude, like, how is that possible? Your abs are literally so defined, but inside I can only think I was just like, man, his organs got to be like, what are you doing? Like that calorie intake alone. 10,000 plus.
It's the keto life.
He was the first keto. I mean, this was easily 10, 15 years ago, maybe, something like that, college. But yeah, from that point on, I was just like, all right, appearance does not dictate healthiness in any way. You know, it's just like you can look a certain way, but pick on ladies again. It's just like some girls are. I think I heard the term skinny fat. I don't know if you've heard this before.
I've heard that, dude.
So okay, I've heard it from I guess both, but it's like skinny fat where it's like they are relatively lean, everything kind of looks tight, but what they're composed of is very very low muscle and a lot of adipose tissue for even small frames, which is mind blowing.
Yeah.
You just think smaller, less everything, right? But yeah, it's crazy. It's each person, but that's awesome. Sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling.
So that's what's up. Yeah.
They're fed sushi all day.
Sure. I mean, there's
sign me up.
gods, yeah.
And they're treated like gods.
Yeah.
I just get into sumo.
Totally. Yeah. Why does it say sumo? It's got to translate.
Yeah, it's got to translate some way, right?
The low center of gravity and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, a couple other questions. So one that kind of tags onto that one. So we talked about, red flags, warning signs, things that it's like, okay, sooner than later, it might be time to take a little step back. There's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of reasons why we would do that. But my other question would be something like, let's say you start prescribing, and this can go for either things they need to do in order to step back, or just things in general. As coaches, we're constantly trying to fill out advice, guidance, preparation, yada yada. We try to help them better understand the big picture. What have you done? You don't have to name anybody. What have you done when you have an athlete who is very obviously not following protocols? Things that are very important, And then, I don't think either of us have really experienced where athletes will blame us for having shortcomings, but I don't think it looks good for us either when an athlete isn't performing to their level that they could. What kind of things do you try to do? Communication? Is it do you take it upon yourself just to change things without bringing up with them? Or have you
carry my shotgun?
Take a nap. You right now. That'd be a really big, broad question.
Super hard one. You gotta have that discussion at some point. And then for me, it's like, it's either you want it or you don't. And if you don't want to do it, then it's on you. You told me your goals, and these are the steps you need to take to get there. And if you want your goals, then follow along. And if you want to just have fun and lift, then have fun and lift. It was Mike Israetel that talked about there's the spectrum of, on one side you have gym fuckery, and then on the other side you have like actual training. And some people just want to mess around in the gym and have fun, but like, hey, if you want to actually get to a goal, then you got to do those things that get you all the way over to here and be serious about what you're doing. But I don't say I've encountered that too much. Like, there's been a few times where it's like, hey, you have this goal, why aren't you doing these things?
Sure.
And there's just like too much life stress going on to worry about that particular thing. I think it's like, okay, then we'll just dial it back and like let's have some fun with stuff. What do you do? Maybe just give me some advice on that.
That was 100%. First and foremost is just to communicate. As a growing adult, I find more times than not having a conversation, if possible, a conversation just like we're having now, something either in person or over the phone, 9 times out of 10 does help at least clear up some of the misconceptions. Because it could be, I will write notes in programs. I'll take time to make sure it's detailed and specific in nature, and then I'll watch athletes start to perform, and it's just like, it almost seems completely off base, or they're just running into speed bumps, and it's just, I want to always remind them, it's like, hey, we had goals when we started. I really want us to stick to them. But I think here we are lucky. Most times when people come through TriFit, and I don't know if it's just something we're doing, but they come in and they already have pretty good intentions. They do want it. They're driven people. We got a lot of really good driven people. Yeah. So we don't get too many people that don't take their training pretty serious. But I think what I'll run into occasionally is you get athletes that almost overdo it with their training. They're almost so ambitious, so ready for the next step in strength, fat loss, looks, whatever, that they start trying to cut corners. And that's where I start to get a little bit of the, all right, part of my job is to encourage. Also, part of my job is to remind people how important it is not to rush things because, as you know, injuries come up more frequent when you start to try to cut corners. If you're, like we said, if you're doing extreme weight loss methods, your chance of being able to keep that weight off are going to be going down. Chance of your health and your body handling that properly are probably not good. I just occasionally I get an athlete that's just like, hey man, you're actually working too hard. And it sounds so weird when I say it. And I don't know. I've tried to phrase it so many different ways. Again, I want to talk to each individual in a way that we hope that they will understand our intent, and it's always good. And no matter what, we want them to do well. That there's never a situation.
We're literally here to help.
Yeah, it's good for us. It's good for them. We get to provide a service that's actually successful. Our business grows because our reputation grows, because our clients are getting the results. So it's never something where it's like, I want you to not do as well.
I want you to be your best.
But I want that long term, and I know I've been there. It's like all the information that you and I have gathered in our 30 years on this planet, when it comes to coaching, it's like some of these people are getting all of that information at such an excelled manner because of
so fast.
Like I wish I had you around when I was 16 just to talk to you. You could have saved me so much pain, setbacks. I could have got to goals quicker. I could have been way stronger than I am now if I had someone that I could go to with information like you have.
Isn't it crazy? It's like the past 15 years, how much we've learned, just like in the sports world in general, and then
it's
in our own knowledge. But like being trainers beforehand, like the Globo Gym, all the time it's like, come on, do better, you can do this, come on. And here I'm just like, slow down, a lot of guys rest a day. I don't know if it's like we get people that want it so bad, and it's like, hey, at a certain point, put in the training, put in the work, and that's what gets the result. It's not a matter of messing around, but
it's like so I had a client referred to I don't know if you've seen it yet. Michael Jordan's got his whole documentary.
Oh no, I haven't seen it yet. I heard it was good.
Oh my God! Well, there's so much stuff I didn't know about Jordan. Roughly because of our age. He won his first championship in '93, '94. So I was 5 or 6. You were 5 or 6 at that time, so fairly young. It would be hard to remember all the details. Anyway, so watching something like that, you see that Michael Jordan. There was a reason why he was the man. He's still the man. That dude did not take no for an answer. He did not take slow down. He did not say give up. He fed off people that counted him out. He would literally go out and antagonize other athletes just so they would talk shit to him. And then he would use that to kick the crap out of them on the court. It was like, that's some twisted mental game right there, bro. You lure them into that trap. But people watch these documentaries. They watch other athletes. They hear these things. Inspirational quotes and motivational stuff is everywhere. People get so obsessed with I need to go 24/7 hard, no matter what. Never going to take a break. Never. And it's just like, nobody wants to hear the boring stuff. Nobody wants to hear that Michael Jordan kept a great sleep schedule. No one wants to hear that Michael Jordan had an excellent nutritionist working with him 24/7. He actually had multiple coaches, athletic coaches. He had Tim Grover, who I read his book. It's awesome because it's all about mental strength. He's got a kinesiology degree. He was kind of like Michael Jordan's personal trainer, but on a level of just the mental capacity. Mm-hmm. Tim Grover does talk a lot about like how to be mentally strong, how to be super aggressive, how to not. And I think it's like that's awesome. That should inspire you to be able to continue to work hard. To when setbacks come up, to handle them appropriately. Slow down, but don't stop. But trying to teach these athletes that like going hard each and every training session actually isn't what they're referring to. They're referring to stay consistent, stay progressive, accept your limitations, and maybe even try to build on them. Like if you have weaknesses, address them. Don't hammer hard each workout session with this like just blunt force of energy. Make it specific. Get the right tool for the job.
Hammer at the training. Like they never said like I went in there and pushed myself to my physical limit every single day. Yeah. It was no, I adhered to the training didn't break from progressively overloading until I got to the end game, and they nailed that every single day. That's the I gave it my all. I did everything I could to my best.
Yeah.
Like doing everything you could to your best means you're giving yourself room to do better the next day.
Right.
And then a little bit better, and a little bit better. You're not sitting there saying, I gave it 110%.
Yeah.
Because you got nowhere to go after 110.
Exactly.
There's nowhere to get, like, I need to be down here so we can get,
120%? No.
That's already given it more than you have.
Yeah. It's and even I think some coaches or trainers lose touch with that too. They throw out stuff like, you want the hardest training session. You want to go ham. I think it was like Squat University put a little comment post, and it was great because it was like, any trainer can make you sore. Any trainer or coach, relatively, can leave you out of breath, can make you sweat. Not all coaches and trainers can make you progressive, can actually help you increase your goals. Writing super hard, intense workouts isn't difficult, man. If I said, hey, Logan, give me 500 push-ups,
I'd leave the gym.
But it'd be hard as hell. It takes us 30 minutes to an hour or something like that, and your shoulders would be blown up, and probably wouldn't feel good. Probably wouldn't be able to hit them again for a few days because it'd be too sore. But it's a blanket, just like go super intense, and it's like, but that's not accurate. That's not tolerable. It's not recoverable.
Exactly. So, and that comes back full circle to that recovery thing, man. You got to be able to recover from it.
But it's hard to communicate that. That's kind of my protocols.
Joe and I were talking. Sometimes you got to just let people kind of figure that part out for themselves.
Sure.
And they'll come to the conclusion. We were all there. Maybe just like in our own journey, we've pushed ourselves too hard in the past, and we realized, maybe that's not the way. We're here to help, but you can lead a horse to water. Can't lead I think that's a pretty good one to end on, right? That was. We've been here about an hour.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If there's any questions or things you want answered, please leave a comment down there for us. Reach out to us, TriFit Barbell, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So, hope to see you guys in the gym.